Okay. So students, now we are going to learn a sum on income from house property. I will provide you the question in the description, in the link in the description. Okay. Mr. Vishal provides you the following information for the previous year 2023-24. Okay. So they have given you particulars, house property 1 and house property 2. Two house properties are given. Okay. Now don't directly come to the conclusion which will be the let out, which will be the self-occupied. First you read the question always. Municipal valuation for house property 1 is 3 lakh, for house property 2 is 4 lakh. Fair rent for house property 1 is 3 lakh 25, for house property 2 is 4 lakh 50. Standard rent for house property 1 is 3 lakh 10, for house property 2 is 4 lakh 60. Rent per annum for house property 1 is 3 lakh 36. Rent per annum, there is no rent for house property 2. Unrealized rent for house property 1 is 36,000. Unrealized rent means the rent which is not recovered from the tenant. Okay, that is the unrealized rent. Now student, I have already explained you, unrealized rent you must subtract from the actual rent. Okay, from actual rent you have to minus the unrealized rent. Okay, municipal tax is 10%, students, always remember. It is given over here. Municipal tax for house property 1 is 10%. For house property 2 they have give you the amount. So how you will calculate the municipal tax? Look here, you have to take municipal value. Now what is the municipal value of house property 1? See, municipal value of house property 1 is 3 lakh. So 3 lakh ka 10%, so municipal tax will be 30,000. But what they are saying, see, for house property 1, 75% municipal tax is paid by the owner. Now don't get confused. Municipal tax is not 75%. Municipal tax is 10%. 10% of the municipal value, that is 30,000. What they are saying, 75% of municipal tax. So municipal tax is 30,000. So 30,000 ka 75% is 22,500. That is paid by the owner, and 25% of municipal tax. So 30,000 ka 25% is how much? 7,500, I guess, is paid by the tenant. So municipal tax which will be allowed? 22,500 will be allowed, which is paid by the owner. Municipal tax paid by the tenant will not be allowed as a deduction, always remember. Okay. Annual charges we have to ignore, because we are getting the flat 30% standard deduction for all the remaining charges. So annual charges ignore. Interest on loan you will get the deduction for both house property 1 and house property 2. Now students, house property 2 there is no information on rent. That means we have to assume that house property 2 is a self-occupied property for residence, and house property 1 they have given you the rent. That means house property 1 we have to take it as a let out property. Now this format, you should know this format. This is a standard format in income from house property question. Okay, so first we have to write the name of the assessee, Mr. Vishal. Previous year is 2023-24. Assessment year is 2024-25. His legal status is an individual. His residential status is he is a resident and ordinary resident. We have to assume that. Assessee means the owner of the house property. Okay, now see the format. Municipal value of fair rent, whichever is high, or standard rent, whichever is low. Okay, now between these two, whatever is low will become the expected rent. Expected rent and actual rent, whichever is high, okay, will become the gross annual value. From gross annual value we have to minus the municipal tax paid by the owner. We will get the net annual value. From net annual value we have to minus deduction under section 64. Now you will get two deduction under section 64, deduction under section 24. You will get two deductions under section 24. Standard deduction at 30% of NAV, interest on loan, and finally you will get taxable income from the house property. Okay, now just fill up the value. Now see student, house property 2 is a self-occupied property for residence. So there you don't have to pay any tax on the self-occupied property for residence. Tax will only be paid on the let out property. So self-occupied property for resident you have to just put dash. Okay, dash. Everything will be dash. But see, self-occupied property for residence, you will get deduction for the interest on loan that you are paying. How much interest on loan you are paying on the self-occupied property for residence? This deduction you will get. Rest all other amounts will be dash. Always remember this, students. Okay, now let us start with the let out property. You have to pay tax on the let out property, so we have to fill the amount. So municipal value is 3 lakh, fair rent is 3 lakh 25, whichever is high. So 3 lakh 25, which is high? 3 lakh 25, that will be the high amount. Whichever is high, and standard rent whichever is low. Now what is the standard rent? 3 lakh 10. So 3 lakh 25 and 3 lakh 10, whichever is low. So which is low between these two? 3 lakh 10 is the low. You got a expected rent. Okay, expected rent and actual rent, whichever is high. Now actual rent, how we will get? See, they have given you the rent per annum for house property 1. Rent per annum is how much? 3 lakh 36. From this actual rent, always remember, if they have given unrealized rent, minus the unrealized rent. So 3 lakh 36 minus unrealized rent 36, the actual rent will be 3 lakh. Okay, so always remember this. Now expected rent is 3 lakh 10, actual rent is 3 lakh, whichever is highest 3 lakh 10, that will be your gross annual value, that is a GAO. From gross annual value you have to minus municipal tax paid by the owner, not by tenant. Now how much municipal tax is paid by the owner? For the house property 1, only 20 to 500, 75% of municipal tax is paid by the owner. Okay, so this working note you write down. This is a working note. You write down this 22,500. So 3,10,000 minus 22,500, how much you will get? Just calculate, students, calculate it. What will be the net annual value? 3,10,000 gross annual value minus municipal tax paid by the owner, 2,87,500. Okay, now you will get deduction under section 24. Standard deduction you will get 30% of the net annual value. So 30% of net annual value 2,87,500 ka 30% you calculate, how much you get? 86,250. Okay, and interest on loan, that deduction also you will get. Interest on loan is how much? 40,000. Okay, students. So 2,87,500 minus 86,250 minus 40,000, and student, this second house property, the self-occupied property for residence, that interest also you will get deduction here. Okay, so minus all this, 2,87,500, from that you minus 86,250, 40,000 interest on loan of house property 1 and 42,000 interest on house property 2 also you minus. How much you get? Very good, 1,19,250. So students, this is your taxable income from house property. On this amount you have to pay the tax under the head income from house property. I hope this is clear for you. Okay, the question for this, okay students, now see what they have told in house property 1. They are saying that municipal tax is 10%. Okay, now students, always remember, municipal tax, if they give you in percentage, calculate on municipal value. Now what is the municipal value of house property 1? 3 lakh. 3 lakh. 3 lakh ka 10% is municipal tax is 30,000. Now we got municipal tax how much? 30,000. Okay, now below what they are saying, municipal tax, out of this 30,000 municipal tax, 75% municipal tax is paid by the owner. So 30,000 ka 75% is how much? Are you getting it? Okay, you don't do 75% of 3 lakhs. Municipal tax is 10%. 30,000 ka 70% is paid by the owner and remaining 25% is paid by the tenant. So we will get deduction for only the amount paid by the owner. Understood? And see this, for this question I will provide you, see this question I have solved. So I will provide you a link in the description, or you can just see this question. Okay, understood? Or you can just see it.